Most game devs never finish their games because they don't set deadlines. I've released finished projects and I learned the hard way why deadlines matter. By the end of this video, you know the exact system I use to finish my games faster using deadlines. So there is this concept you might have heard of or you might not. It's called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law basically just tells us the more time you allocate to a task, the more time you will spend on it. So I think we all can relate to this one example. You can think of it like when you're assigned a task in school and the deadline you get for the task is very distant in the future. And not just you, but most of your class probably won't get it done or complete before like maybe a few days before, even though you could have probably done it in 1 or 2 days. And that's the same for game dev. If you don't have a set deadline, you are just going to spend more time than you actually need on it because you don't have that rush to finish it and to move forward. But when you have a deadline, you're forced to move forward, you're forced to not skip sessions, you're forced to not waste time and not procrastinate because you have a deadline that you need to achieve. So if you do these things, then you are going to get punished because that means you won't finish your deadlines. And that's a really bad feeling, like missing a deadline. So you kind of get punished when you don't complete it in time. So when you have deadlines, you need to move forward and you can't waste any time because you need to work to complete the deadlines. Now you probably have a scenario in your head about the example I told you before, where the teacher might assign a very distant deadline to a not that hard task, like maybe 1 month in advance or whatever it might be for you, but you could do it in 2 days. Now imagine if the teacher set a deadline for 2 days. That means you wouldn't have to worry about it for a whole month. You could just do it in the 2 days. You could just focus on it for 2 days and you wouldn't have to think more about it. Which means you'd be more productive in your other classes because let's say you have 5 of these very distant deadlines and you just work on these distant deadlines tasks like once in a while when you have time or whatever. That just kills your focus because you are scattering your attention across all of these different distant deadline tasks. What would be much better is if you just focus on one of them at a time. So you spend 2 days on this task, you spend 2 days on the next, 2 days on the next, and so on and so on. And after 10 days you would have completed all the 5 tasks that you have 1 month deadline on. So you would have 20 days to spare. Compared to the other students that scattered their focus, that actually worked a little bit once in a while over the 30 days. While you just focus entirely on one task for 2 days at a time. Because that's what it took. Do you see the difference? Because the difference is dramatic. One student works 1 month on 5 different things, whilst one student works 2 days on 1 different thing. And the one student that focuses on one thing at a time gets much further. And this obviously is something you can do even with a far deadline, but if the deadline is tight, it forces you to do it. So if you don't do it, and you don't focus entirely on one task at a time, then you get punished for it. So it just becomes much easier to do it. I'm not saying you can't, but deadlines definitely help because it's a framework to do the good habits. It's a framework to not scatter your focus, and it's a framework to just move forward. It's not a thing that does it, but it's a foundation. It makes doing it just much easier. So now that you know why deadlines are important, we can talk about how to actually implement them. Like the practical steps. So first of all, to actually implement deadlines, you need a set time that you work every single day. And the best thing would do if that set time is the same time every day. So for me, that was, for example, I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. in the mornings and I'd work 1.5 to 2 hours every single morning. Even in the weekends, even when I had school. So I knew I had 2 hours to work every day. So I know I'd work 2 hours every day and then I planned my deadlines accordingly. So what's the most I could possibly achieve in those 2 hours? That's what I thought to myself when I set these deadlines. And in the beginning, 90% of the time, you should take that answer and you should make it even tighter because I'm sure you can do it. 99% of people are underestimating themselves. You could do so much more if you actually focused and if you had to do it. Like if you had the gun to your head, you could do so much more. You just don't have the incentive to. So the deadline should be something that challenges you to move forward, not something that's easy and you just get the dopamine from completing the deadline when it wasn't even a deadline, it was very easy. So make it a little tighter than you think you could achieve. Also, if you want to learn more about deadlines and how you can implement them practically in the most effective way possible, you can click the link in the description. And now when you are done with a task and you completed the deadline, you don't waste any time on polishing and doing these other things. Just move on to the next task immediately. And if you do these two things, you set deadlines and you just move on to the next tasks like very fast, then you are going to make so much progress, especially if the deadlines are tight and it forces you to be productive as possible. And you can just use a to-do list that supports deadlines or a board. I use a website called Trello.com where you make a board. You can have one list for to do, you can have one for what you're doing right now, you can have one for done, and you can make cards within those lists and you can move the cards around to different lists, and you can set deadlines on the cards, so the cards are going to be your tasks. So this isn't sponsored or anything, but I use Trello.com and I always has. So now you know why deadlines are important and how you can implement it into your routine. And if you do these things, it's going to skyrocket your productivity, I promise you, because it just forces you to move forward, like I've said so many times now. But that's everything I had for this video, and I really hope you learned something from it. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.